Welcome back to Breaking the Chains, Healing from Emotional and Physical Abuse. Donations help my podcast expand and produce more smoothly. Also, you all can purchase my merchandise by clicking the link in the description below. Again, I am so grateful for each listener and each supporter of my podcast. This is Season 7, Episode 3. Again, this is Season 7, Episode 3, and I am your host, Kelly. The title of this podcast is called The Psychology of an Abuser. The title of this episode is called The Psychology of an Abuser. As I stated in the previous episode about why a person chooses to abuse their partner, if you haven't listened to the previous podcast, please go back and listen to it. This episode, I'm going to go more in depth as to why a person chooses to become an abuser. Mental illness isn't to blame for some people who choose to abuse their partner. For there are many people that have been diagnosed with mental illness or illnesses and they don't abuse their partner. However, if an abuser doesn't seek professional help for their mental illness, then it can cause them to be abusive toward their partner. What's going on in a person's brain that motivates him or her to abuse their partner? Abusers share a psychological traits when evaluating their victim. This will include one or more of the following psychological traits that abusers use when evaluating their victim. So this is the 6 psychological traits that abusers have. Number 1, a hatred or hostility against one gender. An abuser will use past relationships that didn't work out with one of the genders, and he or she will begin to take that hatred out on their partner because of past relationships based on their gender. 2, jealousy. When you are in a relationship with a abuser for months or years, then you will begin to see how he or she becomes very jealous of other people. Examples: why are you friends with them? This is like examples abusers is asking their victims. And here's another example. Why do you spend more quality time with our child than me? Oh yes, your abuser will be jealous of your close relationship with you all's child. 3, a controlling nature. Your abuser will keep telling you that he or she is really concerned about your well-being. However, your abuser is just concerned in controlling every aspect of your life. 4, inability to take responsibility for their actions. Abusers often believe that the world is against him or her, and the abuser will always play the victim. In reality, an abuser is never the victim. Also, the abuser will use blame shifting. This means the abuser will constantly shift blame to their victim or blame everyone else for their abusive behaviors. 5, desperation to move the partnership quickly. It's a red flag if a new partner expresses their love for you on the second date or a week into the relationship, that he or she will tell you that you are their soulmate. Abusers want their victim to quickly fall in love with them and become dependent on them alone. 6. Could be very sensitive abusers. Many abusers get upset over any little circumstance. Something as minor as their victim suggesting to their abuser that they should try a new restaurant for dinner, and which will cause the abuser to go on an attack against their victim. As I stated a few minutes ago, that when a person doesn't get help for their mental illness or illnesses, then it will cause him or her to become abusive toward their partner. Here are mental illness or illnesses that, when not treated, will cause a person to become abusive toward their partner. Number 1, narcissistic personality disorder, which is also known as NPD. He or she has no empathy for physically or emotionally abusing their partner. 2, borderline personality disorder. Borderline personality disorder is defined when a person has difficulty managing their emotions and behaviors, has frequent mood swings, and uncontrollable anger issues. 3, psychopath. They're a psychopath. The abuser is a psychopath. When a person feels no guilt, no shame, or no remorse for their horrible actions, he or she gains pleasure for causing mental or physical pain to others. 4, antisocial personality disorder, which is also known as sociopaths. Sociopaths are kind of like psychopaths because he or she feels no guilt, no shame, no remorse for their horrendous actions. However, sociopaths are predators, so you will feel scared to be alone with them. Just because you have these mental illness or illnesses doesn't mean that you are an abusive person. Like I stated before, and I will keep stating, however, when these mental illnesses or mental illness isn't being treated, then a person will become abusive toward his or her partner. How abusers speak. This is Maya Angelou. Maybe I should spell that. I could be pronouncing this wrong, so I'm going to spell it. It's Maya, and her last name is Angelou. This is a quote from her. So think about this as you see the actions, the horrible actions, how your abuser is speaking to you and treating you. This is her quote. When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. I'm going to restate that. This is from, I'm probably pronouncing her name wrong, so I'm just going to spell it. It's Maya, the first name. The last name is Angelou. This is her quote, and this is how you should look at when abuser, how he or she speaks to you, or how he or she physically harms you. When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. That means no matter how many times the abuser apologizes, if they keep abusing you, they're not going to stop. I mean, they can keep giving you a fake apology. Most time it is fake. They can do the crocodile tears, meaning those aren't real tears, because an abuser will always be an abuser when they keep abusing their partner and their actions isn't changing, and they keep saying, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'll never do that again." And then a few days later or a few weeks later or whenever, maybe a month later, like your abuser does it again, like harms you physically or says something very hateful to you, like for example could call you crazy or could call you ugly. Those are very harmful and hateful words. Or like they could physically harm you, like slap you on the face. They could throw you up against the wall. They could kick you in your ribs. That behavior. And when they keep doing it and their actions aren't changing and they keep apologizing and they know that you keep staying with him or her, they're not going to change because you aren't enabling that abuser to keep abusing you. And you can get the strength and know that you are worth so much more and you deserve better than that. You don't deserve to be treated like that. No one deserves to be mentally or physically abused. So, like, that's what I'm saying. When they are physically or mentally abusive to you and their actions aren't changing, however, they have the same apology, which I say fake apology because they're not changing their actions, so they don't feel bad for it or they would change their actions. And then they give you the fake crocodile tears. So they're not going to change. However, you can make a declaration for yourself saying, "Oh, I deserve to be treated better than that. I don't deserve to be mentally or physically abused." And you can leave. You can leave. You deserve to be treated better than that. Like I stated, no man or woman deserves to be physically or mentally abused. So here are some examples of how abusers speak. Number one, this is examples again like what abusers would say to their victim. "You would be more handsome or prettier if," and then whatever they say after that. That's very abusive. Two, your abuser will also say, "I bring the money into this house, so I will decide how it's spent." That's controlling too. Three, your abuser will also say, "How much did you spend? I need to see the receipts." Again, that's controlling too and abusive. Number four, "Where were you today?" The abuser is asking their victim. Number five, the abuser could say to their victim, "I tried calling you 15 times. Why didn't you answer?" Pretty much by that question, they're assuming, him or her is assuming that their victim is cheating. Most likely not. It's just that's their control tactic and that's their abusive behavior. Number six, your abuser could also say, "Why did you make me do that?" That's blame shifting, like I spoke about earlier. That's blaming their victim for their toxic actions. That's not the victim's fault. That's the abuser's fault. If the abuser throws a picture against the wall and breaks it, that's the abuser's fault. That's not the victim's fault. So when an abuser asks their victim, "Why did you make me do that?" the victim didn't make the abuser do that. The abuser decided to throw that picture against the wall. That's their actions that they should be held accountable for. Number seven, an abuser will also say to their victim, "No one will understand you like I do." Oh, that's funny. But they do say that. That's hilarious. Actually, when they say that, you should say, "Actually, somebody will understand me and treat me better." Number eight, an abuser will also tell their victim, you're always making a big deal out of nothing. Starting an argument, starting a fight. Oh boy, how many times have abusers said this to their victims? Again, this is another tactic of blame shaming and blames shifting. The abuser is blame shifting to their victim to make the victim think, oh, it's always your fault. It's never my fault. You're always trying to start an argument or fight. No, it's not the victim's fault. It's never the victim's fault. It's always the abuser's fault. Number 9, the abuser will also tell their victim, if you leave me, no one else will want you. That's so untrue. Number 10, abuser will also tell their victim, you aren't smart or successful enough to survive without me. False. You will survive and be more successful without your abuser, actually. 11, your abuser will tell their victim, you need to go on a diet. And let me go here too. What I found very interesting when an abuser says that, most likely him or her is not physically fit to make that kind of statement to their partner. So why would, again, you're knocking your victim's self-confidence down by making all these emotionally abusive statements, trying to, to keep your victim. That's what the abuser wants, to keep their victim down, their self-confidence down. And like I said, most likely the abuser is not physically fit. So why are they, he or she, saying you need to go on a diet when, you're thinking, I think you might need to go on a diet also. It's only fair if they're going to make that statement, then why not reverse it on him or her? 12. An abuser will also tell their victim, this is why nobody likes you. Well, actually, a lot of people like the victim. And two, I go back to, that's another tactic from the abuser to keep their victim down, their self-confidence down, to make them antisocial, not want to hang out with their family and friends. They want their victim all to themselves. They don't want their victim to socialize with nobody else because they don't want their victim to tell everybody the truth of what's going on behind closed doors, because they want to stick with their fake image. They want to maintain that fake image, whether it's in their church, whether it's to their neighbor, whether it's to their supervisor, their boss, whether it's to their pastor, their youth pastor. That's the whole ordeal. That's all the abuser wants to do, is maintain the fake image and maintain control over their victim, keep the victim's self-confidence low, so the victim will stay with him or her. So they're like, oh, you're not going to want to leave because you have no self-confidence. I cut out your total social life because, like I stated, like the abuser will say, this is why nobody likes you. So that will make the victim feel like, well, I don't want to socialize with my friends because they don't like me. Maybe they don't like me because of what my abuser is saying, when that's totally false. Your friends and family are your support system, and you can go to your family and friends and tell them. However, your abuser does not want you to go outside of those walls of wherever you're living and say, where you all are living, and say, this is going on in our relationship. And I'm very afraid my partner is very emotionally or physically abusive, or both. Like I stated, they just want to maintain control over their victim. They want to keep that fake image of themselves to everyone around them. They want to use this smear campaign constantly to their family and friends to make their victim look like the bad person when the victim is never the bad person, when the abuser is the one that's creating all this turmoil for the victim. So, if you're a victim or a survivor of abuse, I want to say this: it isn't your fault. You will come to realize that you were blindsided by your abuser's tactics of power and control of you. I'm going to restate that. You will come to realize that you were blindsided by your abuser's tactics of power and control of you. Even if you stayed with your abuser longer than you anticipated, or even if you returned to your abuser more than once, it still isn't your fault. You just missed the red flags, and it happens to a lot of people. Don't blame yourself for the mental or physical abuse that you endured for months or years. Your partner chose to be abusive. It is all the abuser's fault for their abusive behaviors. An abuser also draws people in by being extremely charming. This is part of his or her fake image to maintain, in which they will use to deceit and use manipulation with other people. I'm going to restate that. An abuser also draws people in by being extremely charming. This is part of his or her fake image to maintain, in which they will use deceit and use manipulation with other people. The abuser wants to protect his or her fake image at all costs. However, you are the brave and courageous man or woman who left your abuser. You deserve all the credit in this world for creating a peaceful environment for you and your children. I'm going to state an encouraging paragraph for all the victims and survivors of mental and physical abuse. Again, I'm going to state an encouraging paragraph for all the victims and survivors of mental and physical abuse. And this paragraph is by Shannon Thomas. And she states, surviving trauma and then going on to create a vibrant and fulfilling life brings a level of gratitude so deep within our souls that words cannot adequately express it. This inner sparkle deserves to be acknowledged, fully experienced, and also protected. Again, that's by Shannon Thomas. I'm going to restate this encouraging paragraph for all victims and survivors of mental and physical abuse. Again, this is by Shannon Thomas. Surviving trauma and then going on to create a vibrant and fulfilling life brings a level of gratitude so deep within our soul that words cannot adequately express it. This inner sparkle deserves to be acknowledged, fully experienced, and also protected. Again, that's by Shannon Thomas. Thank you all for listening and supporting my podcast. Again, donations help my podcast expand and produce more smoothly. Also, you all can purchase my merchandise by clicking the link in the description below. Again, this was season 7, episode 3, and I am your host, Kelly, and I hope you all have a fantastic day.